Luffy is the freest man alive. Not in a he's carefree kind of way. Not in a he does what he wants way. He genuinely does not bend. Not for kings, not for world nobles, not for any version of the world telling him what he's supposed to be. He's a guy who ate a devil fruit, decided he wanted to be king of the pirates, and has spent his entire life charging straight at that. No detours, no hesitation, no ceiling. What we're figuring out today is how that actually works, because freedom that looks like his, total, untouchable, real, doesn't just happen. It runs on something, and most people watching this show never see what's actually underneath it. There are two engines keeping Luffy free, and if either one goes down, the whole thing collapses. Here's the thing about Luffy. He doesn't look back. Not because he's careless, because he generally doesn't have to. There's somebody behind him making sure everything in front of him is already handled. That's Zoro. People talk about Zoro, he's just the strong guy on the crew. The one who trains the hardest, fights the toughest opponents, and stays in his lane. But that's not actually what he does. What Zoro does, his real function, is he absorbs every threat that would force Luffy to stop moving. Every enemy that would make Luffy turn around, every moment that would interrupt the charge. He takes it so Luffy doesn't have to. Thriller bark. Kuma shows up and offers a deal. He'll leave the crew alone if someone volunteers to take all of Luffy's accumulated damage and pain. Every wound from every fight Luffy's been in, all at once. Zoro doesn't hesitate. He walks over and takes every single bit of it. Sanji watches the whole thing happen and can't even speak. That's not loyalty in a general sense. That's a guy who's decided at some point, quietly, with no announcement, that Luffy's path forward matters more than his own body. And the reason that matters for Luffy's freedom specifically, Luffy cannot be the freest man alive if he keeps stopping to fight his own battles. Every time he turns around, he loses ground. Every obstacle he has to handle himself is a tax on the momentum. Zoro eliminates the tax. But here's where it gets complicated, because if Zoro is the engine that clears the path forward, what happens to everything behind Luffy? The people he loves, the ones he burned the world down for. Zoro doesn't look back either. Two engines, remember that. So Zoro clears the path. Every threat in front of Luffy, gone. Every obstacle, handled. The forward charge stays clean. And you think that's enough, right? You think a guy who never looks back, moving at full speed, with someone cutting every obstacle in front of him, that's a complete system, right? It's not. Because Luffy doesn't just move toward things. He moves away from people who need him without realizing it. He charges so hard toward the next fight, the next island, the next impossible thing, that the people behind him can fall through the gaps. That's the problem Zoro cannot solve, because Zoro is facing the same direction as Luffy. Nobody's watching the rear, except Sanji. Sanji's whole function is the opposite of Zoro's. He doesn't clear the path forward. He makes sure nobody gets left behind on the way there. Every crew member who falls, every person Luffy would destroy himself trying to save if he knew, Sanji handles it before Luffy even turns around. That's not a support role, that's the second engine. And here's what makes this actually complicated. Whole Cake Island. Sanji has every reason to stay. His family, his blood, a political marriage that ends a war. Judge is standing right there telling him his crew doesn't need him, that he's replaceable, that real strength means cutting people loose. Sanji turns around and goes back anyway. Not because it's easy, because Luffy's freedom only works if the people Luffy loves are still there when it matters. He chose the rare engine over everything else his blood was offering him. Now you understand what both engines actually do. But here's the question nobody asks. What does Luffy's freedom look like when only one of them is there? The answer to that is a story most One Piece fans have watched 100 times and never read it this way. There was someone else who wanted actually what Luffy wants. Same energy, same refusal to bend, same total belief that he was going to make it to the top on his own terms. Portgas the Ace, Luffy's brother, same reckless charge forward, same hunger for freedom that doesn't apologize to anyone. And Ace had the first engine. He could clear a path, he was strong enough, committed enough. The forward charge was real, but nobody was watching the rear. Not because his crew didn't care, because nobody in that crew was built for it. Nobody had made that quiet decision, the one that Sanji made, that the people behind Ace mattered as much as what Ace was charging toward. So when Blackbeard betrayed Whitebeard's crew and Ace decided to go after him, he went forward full charge, the only way he knew how. No one watched the rear. Whitebeard told him not to go, explicitly. The man who was the closest thing Ace had to a structure around him looked Ace in the eye and said, "Don't." Ace went anyway, because there was no second engine to say, "I've got what's behind you, you're clear to move." There was just the charge and the gap it left open. You've seen someone do this, charge so hard towards something that they stopped noticing what they were leaving behind. Blackbeard didn't beat Ace because he was stronger. He beat Ace because Ace came alone into a fight that needed two engines and he only brought one. Now look at Luffy in the same situation. Luffy charges forward through Marineford, the most dangerous place on the planet, and he doesn't stop, doesn't slow down, doesn't turn around, because Zoro isn't there. But the engine Zoro represents is in Luffy's bones by now, and Ivankov, Jinbei, the people around him, they're running the rear. He gets to Ace. Same dream, same energy, different architecture. One of them made it to his brother in time. The other one never came home. So what does Luffy actually have that Ace didn't? Jinbei says it out loud in Wano. Zoro and Sanji, the wings of the Pirate King. And everyone hears that and thinks, yeah, that makes sense. Strong fighters, good combination. Luffy's got good people around him. That's not what it means. Wings aren't decorations. Wings are how you fly. You take one away, you don't fly slower. You don't fly crooked. You don't fly at all. Luffy is the freest man alive because he has two people who made a decision. Not once, not publicly, not for recognition, who decided that his freedom was worth protecting with everything they had. One faces forward, cuts whatever comes. One faces back, makes sure nobody falls through the gap. Luffy just flies. That's not luck. That's not a coincidence of who ended up on his crew. That's architecture. The people around you determine the ceiling of your freedom, not your drive, not your power, not how hard you charge. What's around you? Ace had the dream, had the drive, had the power. He just didn't have the wings. Luffy knows what kind of man he is. He also knows he can't fly alone. I built the Starheart Guild on Patreon for exactly that. Monthly challenges, deep dives, the architecture underneath the freedom. Founding enrollment is still open. First members in get their name on every video permanently. Links in the description. Freedom isn't something you build alone. It's something the right people make possible. Till next time, crew. Under the glow of stars, we forge our future together. Captain Geo Bravo, signing off. Peace.